Okay, everybody, can everybody hear us loud and clear? Awesome. Yeah, then I think with this, we're all ready to kick this session off. So thanks everyone for joining us today, afternoon here in Amsterdam, 2 o'clock CET, but there are also people joining us from all over the world, also from the US and APAC, where it's currently a little bit late. So thanks everyone for being here today. The session, well, the topic is really straightforward because we're going to talk about customer acquisition in the digital world. Something that all of the digital marketing world is familiar with. And we're going to do a very deep dive into the 4 most popular strategies for acquiring new customers online. We're going to talk about how are they currently working. We're going to discuss how are they changing already. And also, we're going to share our predictions on what we expect to change fundamentally in the future in the cookieless reality. Before we dive in, quick introduction on who we are. I'm Kalina, the brand and comms manager here at Relay42 and your host for today. And for this session, I invited 2 of my colleagues. So we've got Tomas Salfischberger, our founder, and we've got Richard Jonkoff, our strategy consultant, customer success manager, and our own in-house cookieless world expert. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Kalina.
Thanks.
So, a few quick things, the usual for every webinar, a few house rules. So we're in Demio for everybody who isn't familiar with the platform. 2 important things to know. On the right-hand side, you have the chat. Feel free to write us questions, and we're going to discuss them in the end of the presentation. The chat is private, so we're going to see what you're seeing, and we're going to answer the questions in the end. This is also where our poll is gonna appear in a couple of minutes. And last but not least, the session is recorded, and you're all gonna receive the recording afterwards in the coming days. So, without further ado, let's jump in. I would like to give the word to Richard, who's gonna give a little bit of an introduction into today's topic. Richard, take it away.
Yes, thanks, Kalina. Yeah, so before we get started about the cookieless world and the future, we also want to look back a bit in where do we come from. So in the olden days, before the internet, people really like the personal touch. So you walk in a store, someone actually knows you or can ask you questions and get to know your interest, and then serve you with the right product or the right thing that comes to mind at that point in time. And in the physical world, we really appreciate those services. We find them valuable, and we like to be treated as a unique customer at every stage. Then moving a bit forward, in the early days of internet, business came online already many years ago, and we lost that sense of personal touch. So you had these spammy advertisements, spraying and praying your message, hoping that someone would click, and it was rather annoying than it was actually relevant for the user. And if we just go back 12 years ago, that is the moment when remarketing was launched by Google. So Google AdWords was one of the first platforms that started using remarketing. And remarketing is actually based on third-party cookies. So that mechanism came in place just a few years ago, just 12 years ago. That is the start of when we started to use third-party cookies. And that actually brings us to today, because luckily today we have the privilege again of knowing our customers again. We know what people do online, we know how they behave, we know what is their desire, what it looks like, what they are interested in. And that all is based on the data we collect online. And that data is tied together via cookies. And those cookies, those are extremely important when it comes to personalizing that messaging for new customers, for existing customers, for every touch point that you have. And that is exactly the reason why we have this call today, because those cookies, they're crumbling. So we all know, we've seen the news, we've heard all about it. Third-party cookies are slowly disappearing from the internet. Some browsers already are blocking them, other browsers are following in the coming years. And those cookies are just one thing, and that's the main topic of today, but we also wanted to point out there is actually more behind this. So the main thing that is driving these initiatives is basically the awareness of data for consumers. So consumers become more data aware. They start to understand what is happening with their data, and they also want to take matters in their own hands. They want to be more in control of their privacy. They want to make the decisions. So what we see now is that a couple of years ago, GDPR was launched, and in line of GDPR, we see, especially nowadays, we see a lot of concerns about the big US companies like Facebook and Google, how they are using the data, how they are storing the data. Are they even allowed to do it the way they are doing it right now? So that is a threat that we recently see coming up, especially for Google Analytics. But also then the browsers, of course. So browsers taking things in their own hands as well. Apple started with ITP. So they started with blocking some cookies and expanding basically whatever they are blocking at this moment. So third-party cookies are blocked by default. First-party cookies are already limited in lifetime. And there's a huge impact on everything we're doing. And with some delays, Google is following, and yeah, they can't hold it that much longer. So they postponed it again. So that means we still have another extra year before Google actually gets rid of third-party cookies. But at some point, they will also get rid of third-party cookies. And at that point, you will actually need to already have your strategies in place and make those changes happen right now so that you are ready for that cookieless world. And with that in mind, yeah, we see that that impact is really big. So this is a quote that we saw that is very relevant, because third-party cookies and the demise of third-party cookies really hurts us in the heart of our business. It really changes the way we have to do marketing. It really changes the way we have to think about data. It has changed everything we do in our current marketing, changes with the way third-party cookies are handled. And with that, we see a lot of ad tech companies jumping into this, coming up with all sorts of solutions. Yeah, and how to keep track of that, and what is good for you, what is not good for you, and how to use it. That is all we are going to talk about today. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Tomas to talk us through these initiatives.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And I think we hopefully by now in the industry all are aware of this topic, and we all know it's coming. But at the same time, the reason we're having this webinar today is that we see a lot of people now talking about mostly first-party data as the solution to the cookieless world, and looking at how do I contact my customers. But there is a significant gap in acquiring new customers, because obviously these are people you know nothing about, you don't have any details, any contact information, any identifiers. And yet a very big part of our jobs, of whatever we're all doing every day, is also acquiring new business for the brands. So what I wanted to do is look at the 4 key types of customer acquisition strategies and how they are affected by the cookieless world, and what we see as the, well, for some, what we see as the solution direction, and for some, there are several potential solutions that we want to go through with you to figure out which ones make most sense in which areas. So in not a particular order, we looked at the 4 key types of strategy. The first one being retargeting, which just said originally invented by Google, but adopted by all the other vendors, is all about targeting your programmatic media buying, your display, video, social, etc., to visitors that have gone to your website. And it is a huge part of the performance campaign for and part of the funnel for many brands. Then, of course, to get people on that website, a very popular strategy is third-party audience buying. So to figure out which group am I trying to reach, and what are their interests, what are their behaviors. You can almost consider this an expansion of retargeting towards the same technologies being applied to someone else's data set or someone else's visitors. Then what we've seen in the last couple of years take a big flight is more lookalike audiences. So taking customers that show a particular behavior, or customers that have particularly high value to your brand, and finding similarly interested people in the general web population, typically also done based on behavior and interaction data. And then, of course, there's also still a lot of contextual targeting. So yeah, that is all about understanding which places do people visit that are relevant to your brand and that are interacting. And all of these four, and we see that these are the biggest strategies for most brands, are affected by the cookieless world and have different types of solutions and different approaches. So I'm curious on that list across our audience.
Yes, sharing the poll right now.
Exactly.
It should come on the right hand side, right where the chat is. Already seeing the results coming in. So the question is, which strategy is the most important for your customer acquisition? If there's one to choose, I see already third-party audience buying, of course, very popular. 40%.
Yeah, and we get quite a balance in the answers today, but audience buying is ahead.
Is leading. Yeah.
The reason we're asking is that, of course, most strategies have a mix between these different approaches, right? Every brand is combining different setups, but there is a difference in weight. And it's interesting to see that in our group today, third-party audience buying is a big one, which is also one that is quite challenged by the cookieless world, of course, as is retargeting. Yeah, so we're 35% third-party audience buying is the biggest option, followed by lookalike, which is very much in line with what is expected on new customer acquisition. So let's dive in and then go through each four of them. What is the impact and how is it done today, and how will it look in a cookieless world? So first of all, on the retargeting side, this is traditionally done very much by purely third-party cookies. You put a tracking tag on the website, the cookie is captured, and it's being targeted across all kinds of DSPs and media buying solutions to reach those same visitors again. There are some first-party IDs being used, and we see slowly more of them being set up. But those tend to be for customers that are existing customers. So you're using the first-party ID for customers that are in your CRM solution, or customers that are already having ordered with you before, or part of a loyalty program, or those kind of interactions. So on the new customer acquisition side, this is today very much a third-party cookie-based approach. Well, as you can imagine, what does it look like in a cookieless world? Well, first of all, it won't be using third-party cookies anymore if they are not available. So that first-party ID is becoming more important, and you need to think about strategies to capture essentially the first-party IDs of your unknown customers. So as part of the funnel, we see brands coming up with things like save my search. When you search for something, you want to keep it, or more proactively offering people to set in retail, set your clothing or shoe sizes and capture those, pushing more login accounts, using social login for those kind of options. All of those things are designed to get more IDs. But of course, that only works a little bit further down the funnel. On the very first contact, it doesn't make a lot of sense to ask your new visitor, hey, give me your email address, right? They won't do that. So what we also see is several new solutions, and there's a lot of experimentation in this area by the ad tech vendors in the whole MarTech space. And one is the different ID graphs, which are companies that generate a new identifier, typically still linked to an email address or a phone number or a login account or that kind of information, but being combined and gathered across different vendors with a quite complex permission scheme behind it, obviously, to make sure that it's all legal, and in that way generating cookie alternatives. It is not yet very clear which of those solutions is going to win. We see several ID solutions backed by different programmatic media providers, DSPs, with the big elephant in the room being that Google's DV360, which for many brands is a very large part of the media spend, is not part of most of those ID graphs. So you can't use it with that solution for media buying. The second sort of competing experiment is that Google or the Google Chrome team, so not the Google Ads side of the company, is launching, as part of the Privacy Sandbox initiative, a solution called Fledge, which is about swapping around the retargeting approach from traditionally being a cookie that is captured by the advertiser or by the ad tech solution, towards storing that kind of information in the user's browser. So instead of having the cookie being captured and used by the advertising side, the advertising side actually tells the browser, these are relevant things, or this is a group I want to add that user to, and all of that data stays within the user's device and can then be used for actually flipping the complete media buying cycle upside down and having the ads not selected by the advertising systems, and having the ads selected by the user's browser, which does have access to the data without making that data visible. We are part of the test group on Fledge. It's a very experimental solution at the moment. We have a couple of customers now starting to roll it out as that beta group. And as soon as there are more results, of course, we will be sharing them here and in our blogs. Then the second strategy, third-party audience buying.
The most popular one as well.
Exactly, yeah, or at least the most important one. And I already wrote it on the slide saying this is one of the most common strategies. So I'm happy the poll turned out that way. Basically, buying audience data either from DMPs or from the publisher DMPs or directly via the DSPs under many different names, right? Whether it's audiences or segments or interest groups, it's all different words for the same kind of strategy, using a set of pre-selected people with a potential interest in your product based on someone else's data. But all of this data is integrated into the programmatic, into the real-time bidding space via third-party cookies. So that data is linked to a cookie, and that cookie gets linked to your ad buying technology, which will then make it available to have real-time decisions on which ad to buy, which ad not to buy. Well, you can imagine in a cookieless world, the first thing that's going to change is it's no longer going to be integrated via third-party cookies in the RTB approach, because those cookies won't be available. What we see is that many data providers are looking into those same alternative ID solutions as the retargeting setups. So they're looking at permission-based access to email addresses, phone numbers, combinations of those to drive an alternative ID for cookies. What is expected is that this will work. These are sensible technologies, but the volume will be much lower because it will only work for users that have actually given permission to use that data, and that permission is one of the hot topics in the whole debate around the IAB consent framework, for example, on how strong such a permission is if it's shared in a large group. So many developments still sort of up in the air on this side, but alternative IDs is one of the approaches that will be used for audience buying. Then Privacy Sandbox or Google also had another approach, which they called federated learning of cohorts, which turned into FLOC as the acronym, which is all about, again, same for Fledge in the retargeting. This is about turning the process sort of upside down and having the user's device or the user's browser do the calculation and targeting and figuring out which customers to reach, instead of giving the advertisers access to the data. Unfortunately, the first trials didn't get very far because the FLOC initiative ran into privacy and compliance concerns and was cancelled. So this was one experiment that didn't turn out, but there is another experiment coming up. It's called the Topics API, which is coming from the same Privacy Sandbox approach, which is again all about having the user's device figure out what kind of topics they are interested in, and then making those topics available in a privacy safe way to advertisers to say, well, I would like to advertise on users interested in this specific topic. One issue that we see with the initial trials is that the amount of topics is quite low. It's top of my mind, it's around 300-400 different topics. And you can imagine if the topics is finances, you still don't know whether you want to sell a credit card, a mortgage, or someone's actually looking for an investment solution. So this does stand a little bit with the level of detail on the topics that are relevant for you as a brand. The IAB has already a bigger taxonomy of different topics available. And again, this is similar to Flock, one of the Privacy Sandbox trials. So it's to be seen whether it makes the final version. We're following this one closely because for many brands, this can be a very viable solution that is actually has the potential to have a lot more volume and reach than any third-party audience ever had before this. So for some brands, this could even be an improvement. Then to our second most popular option, lookalike audiences. Traditional approach is quite simple, often pixels tags in channels, so on the website, in the mobile app, capturing a group of high value customers, or based on your first party data, so using email addresses, phone numbers from your existing registered customers, and having your programmatic media solution find the most similar users to your high value ones. Well, in a cookieless world, again, you have to think about the data collection side of it, because those tags on the website are all cookie based. However, there are very good solutions for that and alternatives that are already live today. Many of our customers actually using it, which is using server-to-server connectors as a replacement for those tags. So still using your first-party data as the basis of the audience, but connecting in a different way, essentially using just a different technology to do the same thing. What we do see as a development here is that the place where you make these lookalike audiences and models might change a bit over time, because in the traditional cookie having world that we had for the last couple of years, the most sensible place to do this is at the media owner publisher kind of site, because they have much more interactions with your unknown customer target audience, so they have more attributes, so they can build better models. This of course is a very strong point for Facebook, for example. They have so much data on their users that they can build very good lookalike models to find similar people for you. But the cookieless world may change the dynamic for many publishers who will may actually have less data about their customer, because that data is very much cookie based, and they will not have as many logins or first-party data as a typical large consumer brand has, because you have a whole database of customers, whereas many publishers have a very sort of light relationship of someone visiting their content and moving away again. And that change could mean that the performance of running your own lookalike models on your own interaction data is going to be better than what it is at some of the publishers. So here we see a role and a research and investment topic for the larger brands to determine how well you can do lookalike on your data, as opposed to just as traditionally done, leaving it to the publishers. And then finally, and this is an interesting one, it didn't get many votes in the poll today, but contextual targeting, all about placing your advert around content that it is relevant to, finding a website on running or marathons and putting your running shoes next to it. Has been pushed back in the last couple of years because the performance of audience-driven advertising was much better. But this was the number one strategy before everyone went cookie and audience-based. And it is expected that in a cookieless world, of course, contextual targeting will come back for a bit and get more attention and more budget shifted towards it. There is one pitfall on this, and that is that even contextual targeting is not completely cookieless, because most of the tracking, measurement, and just the basis for all optimization on contextual targeting is today done using third-party cookies. So there is work to do in terms of both figuring out how much you want to go back to contextual targeting once the world goes cookieless, and investing in how to do success analytics on it, similar to the lookalike data, looking at server-side tracking implementations, server-to-server connections to the CDP, to make sure that you have actual insight in how effective contextual targeting is, because it does require more work on the planning side to figure out which places do you want to advertise, which ones drive the most performance, how do we optimize it, which all requires more analytics and insights that you need to capture.
Clear.
And then, as a bonus, these are the four sort of most common ones today, but we also see developments of potential new strategies. And Richard, can I ask you to dive into the value of the partnerships.
Yes, yeah, because this is, I think, oftentimes one that is forgotten or not even looked at, or maybe even unfamiliar for most companies, and that is indeed what we call data partnerships, which essentially is bringing another one's first-party data into your marketing mix. So basically leveraging first-party data of a potential partner or a partner and target those people because they are likely to be customers of yours or become customers of yours. And the main benefits that we see in data partnerships is that, as mentioned, they are more likely to be relevant to your customer. And the funny thing is that we actually see this happening already on the commercial point of partnerships. So what you see oftentimes already is you book a ticket at an airline, and on the thank you page, you see you can rent a car for a discount or book a hotel. So they are more like these partnerships are already there on a commercial perspective, trying to persuade you once you have bought that ticket to also make use of one of those, basically affiliate partnerships that are available to convert you on those websites. But what is the chance that someone will do that on that thank you page? Well, on the other hand, if you then leverage those partnerships not only on a commercial perspective or on an affiliate perspective, but also make the right discussions or to have the right discussions with those partners to set up a data partnership, to actually transfer first-party data of your customers and of their customers with each other, so that you actually know, okay, a person that now booked a trip to New York, he most likely needs a hotel to stay. So if you are a hotel owner and you have these partnerships with airlines, you know who to target, because those people actually already booked a flight to New York, and you can then target them with a hotel. And the most good thing about these data partnerships is they are oftentimes mutual beneficial, because it can also be the other way around. Someone booked an hotel in New York and you can try to offer them a flight. Another positive point about these data partnerships is that they are more secure than third-party data. You know who you're buying the data for or who you're partnering up with. You actually make sure that you have the right legal boundaries to collect that data or to get that data from your partners. And by having that all taken into account and discuss all the details with your partner, it is actually a very secure way of leveraging first-party data to of another partner to for your success. And that's basically also the third part. These partnerships, they do rely, of course, on trusted partnerships. You need to share your data with another person. They will not give it for free. You'll need to give something back in return. And oftentimes, as mentioned, these partnerships are already there on a commercial basis. So there is always oftentimes already an in, and there's multiple ways of getting those partnerships up in place, or think about those partnerships. You can think of tons of examples of what would be relevant partnerships to set up, like the example that Thomas gave about finances. Well, people that are selling mortgages, they might be interested in people visiting real estate websites, or people actually looking into buying houses. And that data, once that becomes available, you know people are in the market to buy a house. And I think that most people still need a mortgage to buy a house, and you won't waste your money on those people. So get those partnerships in place. That's actually a fifth strategy that we would like to bring to the table via this webinar as well, because we don't hear it enough, and we really see true value in these kind of partnerships. And for those customers where we already see these partnerships, we also see that they are successful. So one example we have in Asia is for a automotive financing customer of ours. They found a partnership with a car dealer, and they traded first-party data with each other. And via this connection, they simply know people that are in market for a car, and most likely are also in market for financing. And what they did, they basically leveraged the data they get from that partnership, and via that way increased the amount of leads that they got via Facebook. And because they were actually targeting people that were in market, it even reduced their cost per lead as well. So they know who were in market. They were only targeting those people that are in market, and thus they were able to reduce their cost and increase their leads at the same time. And this is, I think, a good example of how a simple partnership like this can help you and benefit you with third-party cookies going away. So the interest collected across all the websites, yeah, that is gone. So you can't buy it anymore at your typical display provider. You need to find different ways to get those interests from those people. And a partnership is, one of the most promising things we see in the market. And as the results show, is actually beneficial for you as a company as well to look into these partnerships and try and find ways to collect those interests and collect more first-party data for potential customers. That brings us to the main takeaways.
Thomas, take the takeaways away.
I wanted to do a quick sort of summary on where do we think this is going and what do you need to do with this information. So first of all, and it's almost painful that we have to keep saying it, but do start to embrace the cookieless world, even though maybe Google Chrome delayed their part for a year. All the other ones are moving ahead. It is really coming. Do not ignore it, because we still see some brands doing that. Second of all, start working on a first-party data strategy. It is key for many of these things. If you want to do good lookalike targeting, you need to have data, and it is very clear that access to data will become a little bit harder for some players in a cookieless world. At the same time, third bullet, look at those second-party data partnerships. Look at the strategy Richard just described. Think about funnel integration and think broad in the sense, because every brand is having these same issues. So it makes sense to work together and to talk about where you can add value for your customers by collaborating. And then finally, we really want to emphasize this because we're doing this for some brands, but not for many still, is run small experiments with these alternatives. So talk to your really 42 account manager if you want to join the Fledge trial. We're still thinking about who would be relevant for the topics API. We have several ID graphs that are relevant for customers and being trialed out. So start to test these. And we're not only saying this because we like to test these new kind of solutions, but also because so far we've seen that the impact can be quite different based on what kind of brand and what kind of audience and interaction you actually have. So you also need to test this in your specific content and situation.
Nice. Thanks for this very clear summary on a topic which is so big, and it's been in development for the past few years, and I have the feeling that it changes almost every other month. There are new developments from the browser side, etc. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on everything and update you guys on the developments. But now we have a few questions. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, the first question comes from Jinta. He actually asks whether we're going to talk about ad attribution. So not at this webinar, but I think we can already say that we are preparing a new one on this topic. And maybe, Thomas, you can share a little bit about what this next webinar is going to be about.
Yeah, it's a good question because of course, today it's all about targeting and the marketing strategy itself, and we only touched upon measurement and attribution quickly. But for the next one, for attribution, there are also these trials as part of the Privacy Sandbox initiative. So similar to Flock and Fledge and those kind of things, there is also one called attribution reporting, but it's not as far yet. So we're really looking into what is coming out of that. Some points are still being crystallized on how it will actually work. But the general idea on those sort of cookieless solutions for analytics is similar to the other Privacy Sandbox initiatives, that more of it will be done by the user's browser, and there will be use of algorithms to sort of, I would say, average the data a little bit more at a higher level. So you don't have the exact history of a customer, but you do know which campaign they've seen before they bought, or how that campaign influences. and the tests are all on how to design those algorithms and how to make it both accurate and compliant and secure.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of work going on, I think, also on this topic, but it's super important to know, of course, where to spend more and where to spend less. What's the best channel that is bringing the most, the highest quality of new customers, of course. So,
yeah, and I think this will accelerate, especially in the European side of things, with many countries limiting the use of Google Analytics under GDPR. There will be even more more urgency to look at how to do the reporting and attribution on campaigns.
Very, very big developments, and keep an eye on the next topic coming up soon. Another question from the chat from Vera. She asks, do we have any perspective on data clean rooms?
Good one, because relevant for many of these strategies, right? Both for your lookalike and sharing kind of approach, and especially for Richard's data partnerships option. We don't have a very clear opinion on, let's say, which data clean room and how, but the concept itself is relevant, right? And if you look at what we do from the CDP side of things, capturing data, it makes sense to do some of those partnerships in clean room sharing. At the same time, we also have customers now implementing that kind of data partnership strategies that Richard was talking about, and doing it direct, because a clean room is mostly valuable if you don't have the permission to use that data and you want to do only a match on a specific set, etc. But if you look at your real world sales funnel and journey of where your customers come from, you often can have such close partnerships that the data is just shareable as long as there's permission, and then you don't need a clean room in between.
Yeah. All right, and then we have two more questions. One is for Richard. Richard, you mentioned the case on second-party data. This is something that some companies are experimenting with, but it's not yet a very popular practice or strategy. For those who are thinking maybe of doing such experiments and partnerships, do you have some tips on where companies should be looking into, where should they be mindful about when they're thinking about such partnerships?
Yeah, I think Tomas already briefly touched base on one thing about when sharing these identifiers directly, you of course need the solid legal basis to do so. So I think that is crucial when setting up these partnerships. Make sure that you have the right consent of those users to actually share data across partners. And oftentimes you already see that, like a checkbox saying, can we share your data with relevant partners? Well, make sure that you that people have the opportunity to actively opt out for those, and make sure that you also have that in your contracts that you have with your partners. Make sure that everything is covered so that you are running these partnerships on a legal basis. I think that is part one. And part two is, of course, you don't want to have these partnerships with potential competitive markets or competitive products. So do your research, like what kind of partnerships are interesting. As mentioned, a hotel and an airline, they are not competitive at all. They are beneficial to each other. If you're flying somewhere, you need to stay somewhere. So that is a very logical thing to do. Same goes for car insurance and buying a car, or loans for a car, etc., or a mortgage. Someone is not selling cars and also insurances, although some of the bigger brands do have it, but that's often times already one of what I explained, the commercial partnerships with a finance company behind it. So it's not that they have their own bank running those loans, etc. But so that's those are, I think, the main things you should look at when setting up these partnerships. So I think again, with an explanation mark, make sure you do this on the proper legal basis, and that's really, I want to emphasize on that, because you don't want to have any problems with the data is being shared. And other than that, just look into in the market, what are relevant companies to me, what are people that are targeting the exact same audience but with a different product, or what are mutual beneficial products to each other. There's plenty of examples to find around the globe about that.
Clear. And of course, start with the legal part. Of course, make sure that everything is approved by your legal team and signed off. And one last question, this time for Thomas. There are still, I think, companies who haven't started working on their first-party data strategy. Of course, with the news of Google, that might be also logical. If somebody's here now on the webinar is about to start working on their first-party data strategy, do you have some tips? Where should they start from? What are the areas in which they should be looking into?
I was afraid of that one when I said don't ignore it and get started. I saw it coming in. I think the real starting point for a first-party data strategy is making sure that you have all your own data collection and then data capturing right. So you're not letting data just flow away, let it slip through the cracks and lose it. And once you have that available, I think you have to pay particular attention to the identifiers that are in there, because a lot of first-party data is still cookie-based, and then you have all the same problems. And there are many additional identifiers that are maybe not used today that are very easy to ask, or matches to find between them with quite simple changes to some service processes or parts of the funnel, to make sure that you have both a very good and detailed set of data for all those lookalike and all kinds of other strategies, and you have all the identifiers to be able to match it in either direct partnerships or clean rooms or with any of the alternative identifier systems, because that's the way to make that data useful.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, as you mentioned earlier, Thomas, there's already what you see in the market, people finding ways to get first-party identifiers like email addresses earlier in the funnel. So Save My Search, wishlist. So also think of ways of what can you embed into your funnel that is not like a huge barrier for users to overcome, but that is beneficial to you and also beneficial to the user. So think of ways to embed collecting first-party data into your funnel while it is beneficial for both you and the user. So as wishlist, Save My Search, Save My Price, etc.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's actually a very nice bridge to our final thing for today. So before we go, just a little thing from our side. We have our newest book on how to prepare for Cookieless world ready for you to come to your inboxes together with the recording of this webinar. And Richard is one of the authors of this book, and inside he put together some best practices on how to get started, strategies, also interesting things on how to get more identifiers, something that you just mentioned. Just keep an eye on it. It's coming to your inboxes in the coming days together with the recording of this webinar. And with this, I think we can close the session. Thank you, Thomas and Richard, for joining us today, for your time and for your insights. Thanks everyone for joining us, for your questions, for spending this 45 minutes with us. If you have any more questions, please reach out to us. You can send us an email, and of course, please connect with us on LinkedIn. Let's stay in touch. For now, we're closing off, and I wish everyone a good afternoon here, and see you next time.